Love is the strongest magnetic force in the universe. Each time we choose love, we enjoy life more. Each time we choose love, we enhance the quality of our life. Each time we choose love, life seems brighter and clearer. Love heals. Love soothes. Love elevates. Love forgives. Love gives us hope. Love brings us joy and abundance. Love makes us grow. Love feels good. Love makes life colorful. We are all here to learn about love, to love yourself more, and therefore others. Real love is selfless and free from fear. It's joy in the pain. Love more. Love is the thing that makes all things beautiful. Speaking of love,
what an incredible way to honor her father and help others heal from the loss of a loved one due to suicide.
Welcome to Speaking of Love, the podcast, and I am your host, Latoya. I created this podcast in honor of my dad, who was an amazing guy. He had an infectious laugh, and his spirit was magnetic. He was the type of guy who made everybody feel like somebody special. If you were to place him in a crowded room of 100 people, my dad would be the smartest person in the entire room. He was an award-winning radio TV broadcast engineer for many years. Born and raised in the city of Detroit, he was one of the first to go to college in his family. And while attending Wayne State University, he developed a lifelong love affair with the game of basketball. He was the shortest point guard on the team, but he could slam dunk the basketball with either hand. By all outward appearances, my dad lived a rewarding life, but there were parts of him that were known to only him. On March 2nd of 2020, my dad's private struggles became public when he took his own life in a murder-suicide. When he died, a part of me died too. And since the tragedy, I have become an advocate for mental health awareness and suicide prevention. I also created this beautiful podcast in honor of my dad and others like him who are struggling with the effects of mental health challenges. My podcast, Speaking of Love, is named after a show my dad once hosted called Speaking of Sports. Thank you for taking the time to be here with me today as we take a journey in pursuit of the strongest magnetic force on the planet Earth, and that's love. My name is Latoya Bond, and I have a podcast called Speaking of Love. My podcast is dedicated to the memory of my dad who took his own life in a murder-suicide. Aside from that, I am a business owner. I have a home-based business. I am also a legal professional during my 9-to-5 day. And I am a person who operates her entire life on the premise of spreading love. It's the secret to my success. It's the secret to my longevity on this earth, and it's what keeps us going because love is the thing that makes all things beautiful. So that's why I'm here today to talk about my favorite subject in the whole wide world, and that's love. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Speaking of Love, the podcast. My name is Latoya, and I am your host, and I am happy to be here today. I have a wonderful young lady here, and I'm going to introduce her. But before we get started, I would like to let you know that before I begin, please be aware that this podcast will discuss topics that are related to suicide, murder, and mental health. This content may be distressing, so please take care of your well being. If you need to step away at any time during this podcast, please feel free to do so. Please know that you are important to me and your well being matters. And now I will begin. Please join me in welcoming my 150th guest on Speaking of Love, Leah Williams. She is a Texas Christian University graduate with a degree in supply and value chain management. After 3 years as a production planner, Leah stepped away from her corporate path to pursue her true calling, engaging in mental health advocacy. Inspired by her personal experience, she wanted to share her story to instill hope in others. Her recently released memoir, The Great Thoughts, does this by narrating an honest retelling of her college experience and her personal journey with mental health. She believes storytelling can foster connections by inspiring others to break the silence around their own experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Leah Williams.
Hi, Latoya. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here, Leah. Just to catch everyone up to speed, Leah and I met at the Kevin Songs conference. We were there at the Starry Starry Night event, which is a fundraising gala for Kevin Song. And Kevin Song is a charitable organization. They support suicide loss survivors like myself. And I met Leah there recently, and we just really enjoyed connecting with each other. So I'm really grateful to have you on my platform today.
Thank you so much.
So let's get started. We're going to talk to you, Leah. Tell me what life was like for you growing up. Where are you from, and what is your background?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Naperville, Illinois, which is like the western suburbs of Chicago. And so there I was really involved in everything growing up. I had a great childhood. I loved music. I started playing piano really young, and then I started doing band where I played clarinet. And so I did that from fifth grade all the way through my senior year of college. And so I was just a really busy kid, loving music, taking every opportunity I could to just enjoy music. I also love art in general, painting, so I loved doing that as a kid too. But overall, yeah, I had a great childhood.
That's wonderful, Leah. So you originally you went to college for one thing, and then you
Yes.
veered off. Tell us about your experience with that.
So I went to Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas. Go Frogs. And so I was, if you know, you know, our mascot is a horned frog. So I had a great time there in undergrad. And so originally I did go there for a supply chain degree. And so even that was a process in me deciding that, but I did finish out my track at the business school during my time there. But a big part of my story is that during my freshman year of college, I lost a friend to suicide in the spring semester. And so that really affected my college experience, how I saw other friends dealing with loss, how I saw my other friends going through what I didn't know at the time were mental health crises, and just navigating life as a college student in such a stressful space. And so I didn't know at the time, like I said, I was still pursuing logistics, and I still ended up graduating with that as a degree. But that's where my desire to become a mental health advocate started, was in college.
So after that experience of losing your dear friend, did you know that your friend was struggling or having any difficulties, or was it something that was not clear to you?
I did know that she was having difficulties, and that was something that was really difficult for me to grapple with. I asked her if she was seeking help, and she told me she was, and so I trusted that. And so after she passed, and I had the opportunity to talk with her parents, and they didn't realize how serious it was, I had to navigate a lot of on my own of, should I have talked to her parents? Should I have gotten help for her on campus beyond what she said she was getting?
Wow. With suicide, the hindsight is always 2020. When you look back, you see those subtle warning signs and little cues that they give you to let you know something's a little off. So
Mhm.
thank you for being a voice. So what were the first steps that you took to go out into the mental health world? What was the first endeavor you took down that path?
So taking it back a little bit, after I graduated in the heat of COVID. I graduated May 2020. So the first thing I did was start my corporate job because at that point, that is what I need to do. And so there was a point in 2022 that I had started taking my journal entries from college of everything I was going through because I'm a journaler and that's how I did a lot of processing. And so I was sharing some of these short stories with friends that I had written based around my journal entries. But I met somebody who said, "Hey, I think you have a story here." And so 2022 was when I started formulating it into a semblance of a book. And then in 2023, I had the opportunity to meet another person who had like finished a book and they told me the same thing. "I think you have something here." And I was at a position in my job where I saw a gap and an opportunity to leave. So that's when I decided to put my time into writing full time. So when I left my job in August of 2023, I began writing my book full time. And so that is what began to launch me into my advocacy work.
That's beautiful. So you've talked a little bit about the inspiration behind going into the mental health world. Can you elaborate a little more on the inspiration behind your book? And the name of the book is Gray Thoughts. Talk to us about that.
Yes. So my title, Gray Thoughts, was based off a project I did in undergrad that I just called Gray. And so it was a zine format. So our professor asked us to take lessons that we learned from the class and incorporate them using poetry and pictures to create a zine. And so my zine title was Gray. And the subtitle was Because Mental Health is Not Black or White. And so when I went into the writing process for my book later, I looked at some of my original poems from that zine project that I did in undergrad. And so that's when Gray became Gray Thoughts.
Wow, that's awesome. So, what do you hope to achieve when a person reads your book? What is the takeaway that you want them to have?
Right now, I have two main audiences that I want to target when it comes to reading my book. The first is for people who are going through a rough time, whether it specifically be experiencing suicidal thoughts and ideation or grief of a loved one to suicide. Because when I was going through the loss of my friend, everything felt so dark. And at the time, I was Googling symptoms because in hindsight, I now know I was both experiencing anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. But when I was going through it, I had no idea what was happening. So I was Googling vague random symptoms and I was trying to find op-eds or people's testimonials of just going through hard times to seeing if I could figure out what these symptoms were. And I couldn't find anything. So another reason I wrote this book was because I wanted to write the story I wish I had at the time. So
Mm.
that's the first group of people I want to target are people who are going through suicidal thoughts to give them hope that, hey, things can get better. And the second group of people I want to target are people who are around loved ones who might be experiencing suicidal thoughts or have lost somebody to suicide, because I think it has a potential to give insight to what I was going through. And it can be really hard when you're going through a tough time to articulate those feelings of grief and sadness. And so I hope it gives loved ones the opportunity to see, oh, my loved one might be experiencing this. One thing I talk in the book is when you're depressed, it can be really hard to take showers. And so that was something that when I had some of my beta readers read it, they were like, oh, that makes sense when my friend was talking about it, but I didn't get it. So now that's a capacity in which I get it. So I hope it allows others to get a perspective so they can better support their loved ones around them.
Wow, that's amazing, Leah. I want to put your book cover here on the screen so that everyone can take a look at it. It's called Great Thoughts. It's a memoir by Leah Williams. And if anyone here watching or listening is interested in purchasing her book, you can do so by going to her website. I have a website here. I'm going to put it on the screen here. The website is Gray Thoughts. greythoughtsbook.com. Is that correct, Leah?
Yes.
Okay, Grey, Grey, the word thoughts, book.com, greythoughtsbook.com. You can purchase the paperback version there. However, Leah has informed me that her Kindle version is available on Amazon. Is that correct, Leah?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So they can purchase the Kindle version on Amazon or the paperback through greythoughtsbook.com.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Leah. And about how long did it take you to complete this book?
So, like I alluded to earlier, I started taking journal entries that I wrote when I was an undergrad. So, this was spring of 2019. So, elements of the book have informally always been there. But I started writing short stories during COVID. So, that was about the fall of 2020, winter of 2021. But it formally became a writing process in 2022. So, I like to say that it took me 3 years to write it.
Wow, wow. You are amazing. You are just amazing. I'm so in awe of you and your work, and I really appreciate this work is so needed in the world we live in today with the suicide rates going up. I've been deeply impacted by the recent suicide of the NFL player who took his own life. It's just whenever I see his picture on social media, on the news, it just really sinks in my heart. I really feel such a deep connection to the young man and his family and what they're going through. Leah, if there is someone watching right now or listening to this podcast and they are having thoughts of suicide, they're tired, they have gone through some experiences that have really left them wondering if life is worth living, what type of advice would you give that individual to hold on a little bit longer?
The first thing I want to tell them is that their pain is valid and what they're experiencing is real. I think a lot of times when all those thoughts get clouded, that it is really easy to be like, or somebody will brush it off and say, things get better. But the first thing I think it's really important to say is that you're going through a hard time and it's okay to feel that pain, just so you don't feel crazy for feeling that level of pain. But the next thing I do want to share, as basic as it may sound, is that it does get better. One thing that really helped me was just taking things day by day. I was like, hey, let's get through today and then we'll make it to tomorrow. And then when tomorrow becomes today, we'll do it again. Let's get through today. Let's make it through tomorrow. And then just keeping that mindset going day to day for me was really helpful, because sometimes just thinking about the future felt so overwhelming. So if you're watching this and you're dealing with suicidal thoughts, know that it won't always be like this. Know that there is hope in tomorrow, and do your best to just do your best for today.
Yes, thank you for that, Leah. And also, I have the Suicide Lifeline number here. If anyone is feeling suicidal, if you just need someone to talk to, just like you would dial 911 in a medical emergency, there is a line established now. It's been around, I think, a little over a year, where you can dial 988. There are trained professionals there who can help you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they may not be able to solve the crisis in that moment, but they can take you by the hand and lead you down a path of a better tomorrow. So please get help, talk to someone. And as Leah said, it won't be this way forever. It's just something you're going through in that moment, but it doesn't have to define the rest of your life or the rest of your days or the rest of your existence.
Right. And one thing I love to also share about 988 is that you can text it. I know a lot of people might feel, I don't want to call, like maybe you might feel some shame, like I don't want other people to hear me. Call this number if you're in a public place, but you can text it. It's so accessible. So also keep that in mind, that if you need that help, you are more than welcome to text that number.
Yes, thank you for sharing that, Leah, because some people don't feel comfortable speaking about it verbally. And that texting can be a starting point to a deeper conversation. So thank you for sharing that. Yes.
And one more thing about the hotline, Also keep in mind that you can use it for mental health crises in general. It's not only for people who are experiencing suicidal thoughts.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Yes. So, Leah, you have really dedicated your life to enhancing the lives of other people. And these are the types of interviews I like to have with people who are wonderful humanitarians like yourself. And you've dedicated your life to enhancing the lives of others. What have you learned? What is the biggest lesson that you have learned about yourself since doing this work?
I would say it has revealed a lot about me. It made me realize I was stronger than I thought I was. When I was going through a lot of the suicidal ideation, I really felt like there wasn't any hope. And so now taking time to reflect back and write through that process. And also, I've been allowing myself to give myself grace to the younger version of me because she went through a lot. And as somebody who is trying to process grief and maintain a high GPA, because that's all I could really focus on in undergrad, now being able to extend grace back to my younger self and say, you did a really good job, because managing grief and school is a really, really hard thing.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to give myself grace to my younger self, and then also give myself credit that I was stronger than I thought I was in many different ways.
Whew. Leah, I'm tearing up as I'm listening to you because your friend who passed away, she obviously meant a lot to you. And I
Mhm.
see that. And you losing her, it changed your life. It changed the trajectory of your career, your future, your life. And she meant a lot to you. And I'm sure she knew that. And so on behalf of her, I just want to say thank you for being a true friend and dedicating your life and your purpose to her memory. That's beautiful.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate you. So, Leah, this podcast is called Speaking of Love. The purpose of this podcast is in honor of my father, who took his own life in a murder suicide. And when my father died, I knew I wanted to do something to honor him. And my father once had a sports radio show. He was an award winning sports radio show host. And his radio show was called Speaking of Sports. So
Mm-hmm.
when he died, I wanted to do something to honor him. So I created this platform, Speaking of Love, in honor of him because I don't know anything about sports. So speaking of sports, it birthed this whole Speaking of Love. So the $1,000,000 question that I ask all of my guests who sit before me, Leah, is how do you define love? Speaking of love.
I define love as spreading joy. One thing that I love to do, whether it was in corporate America or even now as I'm in this mental health advocacy journey, just making sure that there's moments of joy in every single day. At work, that looked like me always keeping candy at my desk and having positive affirmations taped onto my cube wall. Now it looks like keeping bubbles in my car. So
Oh,
if I'm stressed out or if one of my friends is having a bad day, sometimes we'll sit in the parking lot and blow bubbles like we're kids again. And then also, when I have the opportunity to speak to people about my book in person or when I'm at different conferences and stuff, I'll make sure I have mental health stickers just to spark a conversation because, again, stickers, I feel like bring out that inner child and then that sparks joy. So for me, love is joy.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Leah, when the pages of your life are reviewed and your mission here on the planet Earth is complete, what do you most want to be remembered for?
Now I hope that I'm remembered as a person who not only spread love just like yourself, but also who inspired people to live. I feel like one thing that is really hard in this work we do for suicide prevention is feeling this pressure of, we want to make sure that we save lives, but also taking care of the families of those left behind. Postvention is such important work. And so that's one thing that I've been doing a lot of research on offline and seeing how we can better support families who have been through a suicide loss. So I want to be known as a person who took care of people and was also just able to add joy back into the world.
That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you, Leah. You've already achieved that intention, so you are definitely living the legacy right now of
Thank
saving
you.
lives. And that's why I wanted you here. You know, this platform is very sacred to me, and I'm very intentional about who I allow in this space. And when you reached out to me, I knew I had to have you here because what you are doing is definitely in alignment with a purpose that has become a part of my life now. So thank you so much for all that you do. And thank you for writing this book. And if anyone, again, is interested in purchasing Leah's book, please go to her website, greatthoughtsbook.com, or you can go on Amazon and purchase the Kindle version. Again, the book is called Great Thoughts. I'm going to put the picture of the book up one more time. I love the cover. Where did you come with the idea for the cover?
Thank you. So one of my friends from college helped me design it. He does graphics design by trade. So one thing we sat down and talked about was what does it feel like for things to be unclear? And we wanted to show a mind that was full of thoughts and emotions. So that's why there's some phrases in there like I need help, and hope and grief and fear. So we wanted to just show what does that look like, but then also just using the framework of the brain to kind of contrast with all of those emotions.
Yes, and I definitely see that. I love this. This is so beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. I am so happy that you are here, Leah. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. And thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad we got a chance to chat.
Yes. Is there anything else you'd like to share with my audience before we conclude the interview? Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
I'm not sure. I guess one thing I can say is that, again, thank you so much for having me. And again, if you are experiencing any suicidal thoughts, or even if you're just going through a hard time, remember that things get better. And also remember that your story can impact other people. If you would have told me in undergrad that I would have written a book and I wouldn't be in supply chain anymore, I wouldn't have believed you. But never underestimate the power that sharing your story can have with other people.
Wow. Wow. Thank you, Leah. Thank you. I bow to your excellence. Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, you know, I'm really touched by the love you have for your friend. You are the definition of a true, true friend, to live your life in honor of a friend. It's
Thank you.
beautiful. Beautiful. Amazing. Amazing. So thank you, Leah, for being here. Leah was my 150th guest here on Speaking of Love. When my father died 5 years ago, about a month after he passed away, I started this podcast, and I've been going strong ever since. I used to do it every Saturday morning, but life has gotten so busy. When my father died, we were in the middle of the pandemic, so I had more time to do it every week. But now that life has gotten so busy, I only do my podcast once a month. It's a monthly podcast now. And to reach 150 episodes is truly an honor and a blessing. And I'm saving lives. And I have beautiful people here with me to help me achieve that, like you, Leah. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks again for having me, and thank you for all the amazing suicide prevention work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you. We have to stay connected. We'll talk a little more offline. But for anyone who has missed any portion of this recording, this podcast will live on YouTube. It's also available on all your major podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, all the major podcast platforms. So wherever you choose to listen to your podcast, Speaking of Love is there. I will see you all next month with another episode of Speaking of Love. Until then, remember that love is the thing that makes all things beautiful. Have a great day and take care now. Bye, everyone.